I can't sleep again. I feel like I've just got so many things running through my head, and it's just like every little thing, like lots of little details that I keep thinking about. Like when I went to Manchester last week, usually the coach goes from Manchester to Birmingham to London, and I couldn't find the coach, but there was one going exactly, well, there was one going exactly the same time that was going to London, and I thought that that was be my coach because my coach goes from Manchester, Birmingham to London. But it said it was 20 minutes late, so I kind of just waited to the side, and then I saw a bus going to Paris. And I also noticed that there was a Flixbus. I also noticed that there was a small print in it saying that it was going to Birmingham as well. And when I asked, I went to go and ask someone about, why is it going to Paris and Birmingham? He said it didn't used to be like that. And then he said, yeah, that is the bus to Birmingham, and you've just missed it. That's your bus, and oh, that one's actually like I think it was. I think there was different brands or different companies of buses, and the one that I was confusing it with going exactly the same time was actually a different one, which is really bizarre. But I feel like I can read into that and be like, that's the bus to Paris, which Paris, I guess, is the angel of perfection. And while I missed it, I did catch that one. It was the same one the next day, but I had to wait an extra day longer, which I feel like with tribulation is just being way longer than it should have been. And then I was thinking, well, it used to go to London, so this bus used to, the bus goes to London, and if you break down London, it could say Lowden or it could say Luden, and I feel like the whole world is Pooland. So if I've been born in Luden, then it kind of makes sense. And then I'm thinking like the orange, it's supposed to if it's referring to the fish of if I was to be in the Little Mermaid, I would want an orange fish definitely. And if I want the castle in Jerusalem to, if I want there to be a castle on Temple Mount and pictures of Ariel with the fish, I want an orange fish definitely. But it's supposed to say or angel if you have like an exclamation mark at the end. Um, but then I'm thinking like the traffic lights, it's there's an orange light in there, and what is the orange light? The orange light is supposed to be like or angel, so it's not fish or angel, it's actually just or angel. And so it's kind of like, oh, is this just a traffic light, or is this like an angel? And what is an angel? An angel is a guide. And well, that is what the orange light is, green, red, no, green, orange, red. But in America it's just green and red. And I always feel like they don't give you a warning or anything. And when you're crossing roads in America as well, they don't give you a warning. So it's almost like, the orange, the or angel is kind of, I don't know, but there's a lot of mental illness over there. And I'm just thinking about all the things that I'm saying and trying to work out like the future. And I feel like things that I'm saying in the past are going to affect the future even more than I realize. Um, I can't do massage right now. I really can't because I feel like it's making me feel um, far less focused far less focused on truth because it's making me doubt myself. And I feel like that, and then there's a bigger picture behind this. What if God is doubting himself? That could be part of why there's so many problems here because God's doubting himself. People are doubting God. People are relying on God the Father instead. God the Father is lots of people, and there's so much mental illness, and I'm trying to just think about how much mental illness there is. And you could say there's different levels. Are you mentally ill because there's a demon in you? Are you mentally ill for thinking that there could be a demon in you? Are you mentally ill for thinking that some people can have demons in them? And then are you mentally ill for thinking that it's okay to put, you can heal mental illness by pouring a hole in someone's skull. I heard someone say this, and it sounded a little bit convincing. It relieves pressure from the brain and allows air to get into the brain. I'm sure they said something like that, and I didn't believe it, but it was kind of like a little bit convincing. And then he was like, oh well, there's lots of studies, and then there's they've done lots of research into it, and then you kind of just believe it, and it's just like, why? If someone tells you that they've done lots of research into it, because there's also a lot of people that say that they've done a lot of research into Christianity and into the Bible and into the truth about this. And I know that that's not the truth. And so it's just making me question absolutely everything. And then I'm thinking, what that theory about just getting potatoes and turning it into tablets and giving them to mentally ill people so that they believe that they're still on the same tablets, what would actually happen? And I, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's good. I think lithium does damage the brain. But I also think, because my uncle has been in and out of mental hospitals a lot. Um, and he's giving me loads of stories about, what happens. And I had an experience of being in a mental hospital too. And, I noticed that the doctors who treat mental illness are so much more mad than normal doctors. Medical doctors are more sane. And I'm questioning everything, so I'm thinking, are they? It's really, I'm really questioning everything right now. I don't know the answers. If someone who's been on lithium all their life suddenly just goes off it, I mean, they might end up having a mental breakdown and going mad. But to be honest, this is probably something that was going to happen before. And if it was going to happen before, it's probably because of stupidity and not being able to control your mind. And I think lithium can damage the brain. I mean, there might be truth to it. I haven't done the studies, but it probably can damage the mind in the long term. And then, my uncle, he's never not worked. He's never had a decent, or I don't think he's ever had a job. I mean, it's horrible to say that, but that I'm just saying, like, what's happened. I mean, he's never told me of any job that I think, no, he hasn't. There's, yeah, he's not done anything for the community, and all he's done is living off government funding, government money. And can people really? I mean, people like that are living off others. That they're just living off other people's taxpayers' money. That's what it is. And then I'm thinking, you're helping them. You're spending huge amounts of money on drugging them up and probably making their condition worse, because I feel like people who are doctors of mental illness are probably people that have mental illness instead. The whole, you know, Christians should be against Christians. When this change happens and people start believing that I'm God, and people start thinking, actually, I don't want her following me around. A lot of people think, oh, I want God to follow. God blesses me in my days, and He helped me get this really good car, and oh, He did this for me today, and oh, today I spoke to Him and He said this to me. And then if they suddenly knew it was me, I think they would actually be like, what, you're in my brain? I don't want you in my brain. Who are you? And they're going to start losing their heads. And on one hand, I feel good that serves you right for lying your whole life about knowing me when you don't. And it's just, it's so complicated, and there's so much I want to say. But when it comes to mental illness, it's such a big thing. And my mum again was telling me that, that the people in England are saying that mental health takes up most of the police calls. So you're spending not only huge amounts of money on funding them and putting them in mental hospitals and housing them, and every time my uncle buys me a breakfast. He bought me a breakfast the other day, and it's nice. I like him when he buys me breakfast. It's nice, but I often see him buy things for himself, and bottle of water, a bottle of sort of a milkshake, a tea, and then a cake, and a packet of crisps that cost like £3. And he could spend like £12 to £20 just on nothing, like just little bits of always drinking. He says, oh, I need to drink 8 bottles a day. And so he could literally just go. He's such a wasteful person. He could spend more money on food in one day than I would in a whole month. And he's the one who's living off taxpayers' money. I feel like, isn't that really, like, you don't need that much? And he's like, oh no, I do, because of the tablets I need to drink all this much. So the tablets are expensive, costing the government huge amounts of money to give the tablets. The tablets are not, he was saying in his head, I feel fine, I feel fine now, I feel fine. And he said it like 4 or 5 times, and I was like, that's not fine. That's not fine. Sorry, but you are not fine. I don't know why you think you're fine. I mean, you're not, going through a manic episode, you're not screaming or shouting or unable to control your emotions, but that's because these tablets have dumbed your emotions so that you don't feel emotions. The problem with feelings is that sometimes your feelings are wrong. I get feelings all the time, and sometimes I am wrong, because the angel of feelings, that's just her negative side. It's, you get feelings and sometimes they're wrong. And he's got so much nothing. Like, he doesn't contribute anything to the world. And then I'm just thinking, well, why is the world giving so much help, police support and housing and medicine that actually just makes him need to drink 8 bottles of water? And because he's not very, very smart, he would literally spend £1 on each bottle. Like, he would go into a restaurant and, I I don't actually, when I go into a restaurant, I like to keep things cheap, because I feel like when I'm not spending money, I don't have the urge to earn money. And if I don't have the urge to earn money, I will hopefully do less clients and less massage. And, I like not spending money because I feel richer, because I feel like I don't need money to survive and live. But he feels almost the opposite. Like, he needs to spend money on just all whatever. You need 8 bottles a day, so I'm going to spend it. I'm not going to do things the smart way, which is just live off tap water. No, I'm going to live off bottled water. Why? Because it's healthier for me, even though it might not actually be healthier for me, because it's got all the, I just it's that it does annoy me how much people waste bottles and stuff, and like, or use bottles and not care about the fact that it's going to take like 300 years to corrode, or whatever, to corrode away. And I don't know, maybe there's different ways of burning it into smaller, might be more useful ways of getting rid of rubbish. But I don't know. I just, it feels annoying. He doesn't have a good life. He doesn't have a good life. He was trying to save up for a pension, and I don't know why he wanted to pay it by cash. He wanted to buy a pension by cash. Who does that? You have bank transfers, you have money. So, because he said that he was saving up to buy a pension, and well, he did, and he always talks about losing £1,000 here and £1,000 there, and it's making me question: is he actually doing this, or is he just making it up? Like, it's hard to know. Like, what's the real? Because he said he thinks he put £2,000 in a sock, and that he's threw the sock away, and now he's been talking about this for months. But sometimes he just says things that aren't true, and it's like, was there, or did you just think that there was? His memory isn't maybe very good. I don't know, like, what really mental illness is, because it's different for everyone. But sometimes I do believe that mental illness is just stupidity. And I keep getting that Blackadder thing. The partner of the Blackadder one, he's mentally ill. What's your mental illness? I'm stupid. I'm sure it's something like that. I see a set sketch of that coming through. I don't know if that's a real sketch or just something I'm creating in my head. Does it even matter? No, it doesn't, because I'm explaining things. But yeah, and that fish, I'm still getting lots of images of that fish trying to find food, even though the food's all at the top, and it's obvious that the food's all at the top because all the other fish, except for the cowfish are a bit smaller, but they don't go to the top. They go to the top sometimes, but yeah, the cowfish are definitely the more stupider ones. But at the same time, they're smaller and they don't use as much energy, so they don't actually need to eat as much. So if they are eating less than the guppies and the other ones, it's because they're not burning and using up as much energy. The ones that are using the most amount of energy, they're the more fun ones. They're the ones you can do with and play with. Like, I don't think my God or my higher self is like bothered so much with the neon fish, because they're not really doing that much. But yeah, because they're not doing that much, they're not eating that much, and they're not pooing as much, and they're not wasting as much. But then I'm thinking about this mad one that's kind of going around thinking, you're just sticking at the bottom, you're looking for food. And then I realize, there is food right now, there is going to be food at the bottom, and so you actually were predicting stuff. But yeah, sometimes people do mad things, and all it's doing is damaging the planet. And okay, it's good to damage the planet. Why? Because the more the planet's damaged, I think the more the people want to help me, God, the more they're going to see God, the more problems there are in the world, the more that they're going to start thinking, right, we actually need a solution. Let's try and find God. And oh, look, here I am. So there's good and bad in everything. And maybe there's so many people here because that's what it needed for people to start listening to me and start actually giving me more respect than what I'm, there's so many people, clients particularly, that I would have an intelligent conversation. I'd explain that I'm God, explain things, and often they would, like most, not all, but a lot. It's mostly the Asian ones. They would come back at me and say, "Oh no, you can't be. You're not right on that sense because of this." And he gives a good argument and stuff, but I just feel like even things like that, because that's the example with the head, the nail in the head, putting a hole in the skull or something, making out that there is truth to it because lots of people have done loads of studies to it, and I'm thinking, but have they? I mean, I really, if mental illness is mostly caused by stupidity, then how is putting a hole in someone's skull going to make someone more intelligent? It's not going to. And then I'm Catholics against Catholics, Muslims against Muslims, Christians against Christians, mentally ill people against mentally ill people. I just. But anyway, and yeah, I think it's also a bad sign that America does not have an orange light in their traffic light, because it's almost like a sign that America is not going to get too much of a warning. Anyway, it also say, yeah,